they had to do it this week. Haley, you know, Brandon's leaving town.
Oh, where's he moving?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Farthest place you can think of.
Sometimes we can get over in church.
Way out that way.
Yeah.
Hey, now, Billy. Congratulations on your recent award. Good job, bud. Way to get on.
Just go get what's been happening.
Okay.
Emily leads the way.
Everything doing all right?
Staying busy, though.
There you go.
Some baseball clinics up, so that'll get a little busy. That'll be fun.
Hey, kid.
No idea.
Softballs and food. Both his hat and then he said, "We look over and
Precious?
Hey, I'm right behind you. Billy, there he is. Good to see you. All right. Good to see you. Hanging in there. That's good. You get out and fish in it? Another place. Ooh, that's a good leg. Boy, it gets windy on this thing.
Yes, okay, good. Hey, if everybody could come on in and take a seat. We've got to get a lot accomplished here in a short period of time. So, got a big ball game tonight. Thank you.
Somebody wave me this direction.
All right, I think everybody's in here. Great. I am Brian Jackson. I'm the president of the board of directors of the Rogers Mountaineer Athletic Hall of Fame. And if you'll see on the screen, I don't do this job by myself by any means. We have a great board of directors that work extremely hard, not only to solicit and come up with outstanding nominations for this hall, but also raising money and putting this presentation together. So if my fellow board members would stand, I know Matt Crafton's up in the booth up there, he's running the PowerPoint, so you all please stand up, board of directors, and let's give them a round. Jamie, Jamie's a presenter, so she didn't stand up, but I'll embarrass her anyways. So, welcome. This is our 15th class, 20th year, 15th class of the Hall of Fame. And if you'll, as we get through these presentations, you're going to see this is a really, really good class. I wanted to recognize our sponsors. Matt, if you could put those up. These are all supporters of this event. It takes a lot of businesses and a little bit of money to put this thing on. So let's give them a round of applause. Also want to introduce, we have a couple of board members, Rogers Schools board members here tonight. Mitch Lockhart and Nathan Gerhan. Appreciate you all being here. Let's give them a round. Also want to recognize our school superintendent, Dr. Marlon Berry, and our, go ahead. And also our school athletic director, Keith Kilgore. Okay, I know in attendance tonight, we have a lot of folks who are current members of the Mountie Hall of Fame. And I also know that we have some family members here of also members of the Hall of Fame who are no longer with us. So could I have all of the family members and the current members of the Hall of Fame stand, please? It's great to have everybody here. I tell you, this is a really good crowd. I'm extremely happy. Also want to have, if we could, I want everybody to please stand. We're going to have a moment of silence for those deceased members of the Hall of Fame. Since we were last here a year ago, we had lost 3 members, so we're up to 16 members now that are deceased. So if we could have a moment of silence for them, and then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll lead us in that. Okay, thank you. If you would, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I wanted to say, I forgot to say it just a second ago, a current member of our Hall of Fame who would have loved to have been here tonight, but just wasn't feeling good this morning, called me, and that's Whitey Smith. And he said he wanted me to relay to you guys. He said, Brian, this is the greatest class we've ever put in here. So those are pretty strong words from that guy. So wish he could have been here, but I wanted to relay that message to you all. So without further ado, let's go ahead, and we've got 7 people to get through here, all outstanding inductees. We're going to start tonight with Marty Barnes, and he's going to be presented by Coach Preston Early.
Good evening, and thank you for your attendance, and to all our distinguished guests. And what an honor it is to be on stage with these Hall of Famers and the Hall of Fame members that are in attendance. My name is Preston Early, and I have the distinct privilege of introducing the first inductee of the 2017 class, Coach Marty Barnes. Coach Barnes was our coach from 2004 to 2012. The numbers that I will read to you in a minute will verify my belief that there has never been a greater 8-year period of Mountaineer basketball. In the 13 seasons before Coach arrived on campus, there was only 3 winning seasons, 37% win clip. In the 5 years after he has been gone, Mountaineer basketball has posted a record of 39-95 with only 5 conference wins. By contrast, in the 8 years that Coach Barnes was here, he was 162-66 overall. He was plus 40 in the 7A West. He was 77-37 in the toughest league in the state, 68% winning percentage, 7 state tournament appearances, 3 Final Fours. In 2006, he led the team at the time to the first conference championship in 50 seasons. That streak is still alive. It's now at 61, I believe. In 2009, he took the Mountaineers all the way to the state championship game. During his time here, he also won 2 academic state championships. We believe the 7A West is the greatest conference in the state. He was named Coach of the Year 3 times. With an emphasis on great team defense and out-executing opponents, Coach Barnes created a winning expectation. We knew with him on the bench, we had a chance, regardless of who we were playing. Coach Barnes has coached for 40 seasons. He was at Russellville High School and led them to the 1985 state championship. He then moved on to the collegiate level and coached 12 years at Arkansas Tech, leading them to the 1995 Final Four and the 1996 Sweet 16. Coach Barnes is an uncommon person. Anybody that knows him, you know it the second you're talking to him. He is a winner. He wins in every phase of life. He stands for excellence. He demands excellence. And he achieves excellence. Coach Barnes is also a giver. He is a mentor to me as well as countless coaches and players. He's poured his life into coaching basketball and mentoring young men. And people that know him and have had the privilege of playing for him or working with him are better because of it. I think in the Mount Rushmore of high school basketball coaches in Arkansas, Coach Barnes' face will be there. He truly embodies the definition of a Hall of Famer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Coach Marty Barnes.
I hope my remarks can live up to that introduction. I appreciate Preston. You know, my 8 years here, probably the best clinics that I ever attended was our lunches together, because we would X and O, and he'd say, "Why don't you look at this? What am I doing here?" And then I'd run stuff by him. And you know, those are parts when you retire and you get away from the game, you kind of miss the one-on-one. But I want to thank Preston for those comments. I also want to thank the individuals that wrote letters of recommendation for me to be able to have this award. Congressman Steve Womack, Paul Gatlin, who's here tonight, that used to write for the paper as well, but he's at Northwest Arkansas Business Journal. Dr. Jamie Dard, the former superintendent at Rogers Schools, and then not present tonight, but he sent me a nice long text, and that's Coach Olson, the Heritage High School basketball coach, who was I guess you'd consider him a long-time assistant. He was an grad assistant at Tech, and an assistant for me, and then an assistant here at Rogers. I want to also thank the selection committee. This is not something that a coach sets as a goal, but it's kind of as a dream, and so I appreciate your allowing me to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. You know, to get to this place as a coach, there's a lot of background people that help you get there. And first off, the administration here at Rogers was outstanding. We had to change a little bit of mentality when we got here, and one of the things that Dr. Dar allowed me to do was we talked about having more home games, because in looking at what was taking place, Rogers would only play one home game per semester, and then they played their conference games, and we wanted to turn people on to Mountaineer basketball. And so with her help, we started with Arvest, the Arvest Classic, which is still going on right now, and that allowed us to put forth our product for 3 times more during the early months. And the other thing was the fact that before you couldn't play Saturday home games. And so we kind of got that mentality changed. If we had to play a home opponent, then we weren't going to be limited to what day of the week, because it's hard in Northwest Arkansas to attract Central Arkansas teams and non-conference to come up here. And those were big keys, I think, to selling our fans and letting them see how we could play. And so the next people I'd like to thank would be the Mountie fans, basketball fans. If you came to the games during that time period, I think we led the conference in attendance, and definitely led them in boisterous crowds and et cetera, and that includes on the road and at home. And really enjoyed, of course, in King Arena, the fans are right on top of you, and that's good. Especially a little intimidation to the opponent never hurt either. Also like to thank my assistant coaches. I had 2 while I was here. Coach Olson, who, like I said, had been with me at Tech, and then also here, Tom was an excellent defensive coach for me, because that's where I put my assistants. They're going to be the defensive coach, and so therefore they've got to learn. And in Tom's case, he didn't need to relearn it. He'd been around me for 5 or 6 years, and I think that really helped solidify those first 4 years at Rogers, because Tom and I were just like this. I mean, there wasn't any reteaching him. We were ready to go. And then had an outstanding intern coach that did his student teaching, and in fact, there was 3 of them that year. And we had two of them, I think, blue-green, and Preston hired him, and I hired Brian Ross, and then I believe the thirdest intern coach, I believe, is at Heritage now as an assistant or 9th grade coach now. I think so. So I had great people around me, and it's always good in my case. My brother is a Hall of Fame coach in Illinois. He's 10 years older, and I always pick his brain. And when I got to be a head coach, I said, "What's one big advice you can give to me?" And he said, "You need to hire an assistant that's opposite of you." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, you're a little type A personality on the floor, so you may want to try to get somebody that's tone it down a little bit and kind of can go put your arm around a player after you're done with them, because you can be pretty tough." And I think part of that, is anybody that has been a coach, and those of you that have played for a variety of coaches, you're kind of influenced by who coached you. And I was very lucky, and my junior high coach was an NAIA All-American, tremendous scorer, and so therefore I was influenced by him. And then my high school varsity coach played 5 years for the Detroit Pistons, and had been an All-American in Missouri, and he was a hard-noser. And but one thing I'll say about Coach Talley, when practice was over, he might have been all over you, and he might have worked really hard, but at the end of practice, we had a lot of jokes and pranks and stuff like that, but none of that in practice. So I think I kind of fit into that category, don't you think, Alan, a little bit? And then, of course, my brother, he's kind of a combination of all those things. And, of course, my mom and dad, it was known in the Barnes family when you came home that you talked about sports. My dad was a big person that enjoyed sports, and so therefore I was all around it. And I'm sure my daughters that I'm going to introduce you in a little bit, they've heard enough sports at the table, etc. I think with all of those things help get me to this level. But the other thing is, you got to have somebody to go home to. And I've got a wife and woman. Kind of like an assistant coach, except home. Sorry I'm doing this, but got a little health issue lately, and it's helping me too much. Also like to introduce my daughter, Haley, who works here at Rogers. Of course, my older daughter, Shannon, is a teacher in Russellville. And so, again, you got to come home to what you're leaving there on the court, etc. I was blessed with that. I think also to thank the teams, the players that played for me from 2005 to 12. And like I said, I'm not always an easy guy to play for. We work off of percentages, we work off of statistics, and you're accountable for what we're doing out there on the court. And so you have to buy into the team. And I think that's one thing that all of my players that I've ever coached, that the team came first. Also, the hard work. Also, we had a quote, run the system. If you don't know what to do, run our system. That's going to take you through. But I think the main thing that we ask of our players were 3 critical questions. Can you be trusted? Are you committed to excellence? Do you care about the team over any individual gratification? And the boys that I coach here at Rogers, by what Preston just read off a while ago, definitely bought into that. We changed the mentality, not necessarily that anybody was coaching them really wrong, it was a mentality of expecting to win. Failure wasn't an option. We were going to outwork people if we had to garner that. And so I'm very happy of the success that we had here. More happy, though, that I coached quality people and quality players. That some of them went on to play college basketball, such as Aaron Holly that's present here. Others have gone on to be successful in their lives, and so I appreciate that. I'm very proud that I was given the opportunity by Dr. Dar to coach here and represent Rogers High School and Rogers. Kind of humbled and honored by this award. Thank you.
Coach jumped through a lot of hoops to be here tonight, and y'all forgive him when he's got to peel out of here. He changed some flights around, and they've got a big reunion in California, so he'll probably have to peel sometime at this point, and that's great. We're happy to have him here. Our next inductee, I know very well, played with this guy, great basketball player, and that's Mark Chambers, and he's going to be presented by Coach Tom Williams.
I want to echo what Coach Early said. It's an honor to be here among the Mountie faithful and to be in the class of folks that I know. Hey, Charlie, how are you doing back there? I didn't see you coming. Good to see you. To be among those that really care about Rogers athletics and have shown that through the years. It's been an honor for me to be here tonight to introduce Mark Chambers. Mark was the class of 1990. He led the team in scoring his junior and senior year, and he also led the team in assists and steals his senior year, while also shooting over 50% from the field. Mark led the Mountaineers to the playoffs in 1990 for the first time since 1976-77, and we would continue to go 3 or 4 years in a row after that with Coach Niven here. He is the Mountaineer record. He's in all the Mountaineer record books and almost every statistical category. His senior year, he led the Mountaineers to victories over Fayetteville, who at that time was led by Devon Remack, and the #1 ranked team that year led the Russellville Cyclones, not coached by Coach Barnes at that time. Corliss Williamson. And we beat both of those teams. And following those victories, Mark was named to the Arkansas State Basketball Player of the Week after each of those victories. Mark was voted All-State his senior year and All-Conference his junior and senior year. After high school, he went on to play at West Ark Community College and then on to UCA. I had the honor of working with Mark and coaching him from the time he was in the 8th grade all the way through his senior high. I was fortunate to be asked by Coach Niven to come to the high school in '87 as the assistant coach and was able to coach Mark there as a JV player his sophomore year, and then starting for the varsity. He played a lot of varsity minutes as well his sophomore year. And although all these honors that I've mentioned are well-deserved because of all of his hard work, that's not how I remember, or what I remember most about Mark. What I remember most about Mark was his passion to be the best that he could be. He was the guy that you had to run out of the gym. You had to turn out the lights, and you know, back then it actually got dark in the gym. They didn't have all those lights that still stayed on. I don't know how many hours we spent after practice, Mark, with you shooting and me rebounding. I got lots of practice at that. And but pretty much every day that we didn't have a game, he said, "Coach, hey, can you rebound? Let's shoot a while." So probably 200 to 300 shots every time we were out there. So you young players out there, if you want to know how you get to be a over 50% shooter for a conference season, you spend time in the gym. And you make it that's your purpose. And that's what Mark did as a player. And he didn't stop there. He did that also in his life. He's now the CEO of his own investment group, and I just learned earlier that he's about to become the sole proprietor of that group as well. So congratulations. That work ethic has carried him through and made him a very successful business person. He's passing that work ethic along to his son Max, who plays over that way, but also an outstanding player there as well, and Mark has been a great part of that. Anytime someone is inducted into a Hall of Fame, we should all be able to say of that person, I would like my son or my daughter to be like him or her. I believe that Mark Chambers is exactly that kind of person. And I would ask that you help me welcome him to the 2017 Hall of Fame class.
Thank you, Coach. In thinking the last week or so, what you want to say, there's a lot of different ways you can portray your message, a lot of different things you can say. At first, I wanted to kind of stand up and tell stories about growing up in Rogers, playing sports in Rogers, and how special that was to me. And it was special. And RHS, playing for RHS was so much fun. The school spirit, the spirit of the administrators, the fans, it was a great time. As I was starting to put down some words on paper that I wanted to say, I kind of changed everything at the last minute. And I really wanted to say the reason I'm up here this evening, and that's the people that shaped my athletic and academic career while playing sports at Rogers High School. And since I was instructed, I only have 5 minutes to speak. I want to highlight just a few, so I know I'm going to miss some, but I wanted to start out thanking my mom and dad for the time and support they gave me through school and athletic career. As most kids do, I didn't realize how much time and support they gave me at that time. Now that I have kids of my own, I realize how much time and support they truly gave me. My mom was always very supportive and spent countless hours making me healthy meals the night prior to games, and pre-game meal was consistently ready for me to eat the day of the games. She always volunteered on the Booster Club, as well as other volunteer and fundraising activities at the school. Actually, she spent a lot of time finding articles, pictures, and providing information in preparation for today and helping me stand here tonight. My dad was also very supportive, spent countless hours shooting, working on fundamentals, lifting weights, playing pickup games, watching basketball with me, and explaining the finer points of the game. He did a great job teaching me how to take advantage of the game situations from both the offensive and defensive side. That was amazing to be coached like that by your dad. Sports have always been a big part of my life. It was incredible to have parents that encouraged sports and helped me in any way imaginable. Both my grandparents and parents never missed a game as far as I can remember. My parents were always loving and supportive, and I can always count on them for that. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I want to thank the RHS teachers and administrators for their support when I was in high school. I could name several, but there's one that sticks out in my head the most, and that's Mark Kruger. He's always been incredibly supportive of athletics and of me personally. In fact, he helped facilitate my nomination for today. He was the type of administrator that would always congratulate the team and players individually after the game, and even years after high school, he would mention how he enjoyed watching me play. There was always a very high level of school spirit that made playing sports at RHS very enjoyable. I want to thank Coach Williams for all the things he taught me and my teammates through the years. He was my basketball coach from 7th, 8th grade all the way through 12th grade. He started out as my junior high coach and moved up to the high school as assistant coach. He taught us so many things on and off the court. He's an unbelievably good person and was highly respected by all he's encountered. I'm not sure he will remember, but I want to share a couple of stories to show how unique a coach he was to me. When I was in 9th grade, Coach Williams invited me to his house to eat a pregame meal with him and his family. Usually before the games, the team would walk somewhere to eat a pregame meal together. This invitation to spend time with his family was definitely not typical of most coaches. To me, this shows how much he cared for his players and students and wanted to become part of their lives. On a funnier note, anybody that played for him, Brian knows this to be true, he was famous for how he played against us after practice. So, as he was saying, there would be a group that would stay around after practice and we'd play pickup games. And usually we'd play for 30, 45 minutes to an hour. And when he would play, all the players would groan and whine if he said I was going to guard them. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, for me being one of the better shooters, he usually guarded me. I definitely credit him for helping me learn to be a more confident offensive player and a better all-around player. He was an incredible athlete and extremely strong, so playing against him was a tough chore. He would consistently say to me, "Son, you're not going to drive and score on me, so you better learn how to knock down that outside shot." I learned this very true statement the hard way. I was a little stubborn, as he knows, so I would usually try to test him on it when he said that. So I would try to drive to the basket and either block my shot or he'd reach out and grab my hip and stop me in my tracks. So as he said, I learned to knock down the outside shot. Well, thanks, Coach, for all that. My sophomore year coach was Bill Nevin. He was our head coach. I want to thank him for the style of basketball he taught us. He expected his team to be very disciplined and wanted his team to be able to pass and move without the ball at a high level. He would constantly say, "I want you always to be a threat to score with or without the basketball." We had some success my junior year and a considerable amount of success my senior year because of the system that he ran. As Coach said, we had some big victories over highly ranked teams, over #1 ranked Corliss Williamson and Russellville Cyclones, and Fayetteville with the Devore Remax. We also beat a perennial powerhouse, Memphis White Station, in a holiday hoops tournament in Memphis. We made it to the state playoffs for the first time since the 76-77 season during my senior season. Coach Nevin and Williams did a great job of instilling confidence in me as a player and as a leader of the team. My teammates did a great job of trusting the confidence the coaches had in me. I need to thank my teammates for the trust they had in me as a leader and the confidence to put the ball in my hands as they did in so many games. This confidence from coaches and teammates and parents and administration and staff helped me fulfill a dream of mine in playing college basketball. I was very fortunate to have played at 2 very successful basketball programs in college. Both schools were ranked #1 in the nation in their classification while I played. In closing, I also want to thank my wife. She's also an RHS graduate. for helping me with preparation for this event. She spent a lot of time going through old pictures and articles that my mom and grandma had accumulated. I'm happy that my kids, Max and Maddie, are able to share this with me. They are both very good basketball players and students and work very hard at it. Finally, I would like to express how much of an honor this is for me to be inducted in the Rogers Mountain Athletic Hall of Fame. I hope I've expressed that this honor was a team effort made possible by support, encouragement, time, and investment in all those around me. Thanks again for this honor.
Okay, our next inductee was an outstanding track athlete. That's about all I'm going to say because I'm sure his presenter and Gary will talk about that. But Gary Harris, and he's going to be presented by Daryl Bowman.
Wait a minute, Gary was good at track?
Oh, yeah.
He was. I'm really honored. Gary Harris has been a really good friend and was my classmate growing up. And I really appreciate him letting me do this. And he was completely awesome. That picture was on the poster the Chamber of Commerce put out our senior year for our senior track season. And that was the season Gary became extremely dominant in the state in track and field. Along about 1978, if you recall back then, we had 2 junior highs, 1 high school, and I started at Elmwood Junior High and I played every sport from 7th grade through 9th grade. And the new school in town was Oakdale, and they seemed to have all these superior athletes, and one of them just particularly aggravated me for all 3 years, and it was Gary Harris, because he was good at everything. We got together in high school, and I realized that I just needed to run track and field after breaking bones in football. But Gary could have done everything. He focused on football and track, and I watched him through high school proceed to be one of our greatest athletes. And there's 2 of our classmates on the stage with us that played football with him and ran track with us, which is kind of cool. But Gary went on through high school, and first of all, it's worth mentioning that in football, he was a great athlete, and he was a 3-year letterman. And I thought he was also that in basketball, but he's reminded me he wasn't. I know he could have been, he just for some reason chose not to be. But when it came to track and field, that's where he got really impressive. And since I ran track and was his classmate, that's where I really, of course, paid attention. But in football, by the time he was a senior, he was honorable mention all conference his senior year. And that shows his accomplishments there. If I recall, he was playing, the only time Gary Harris wasn't on the football field was extra points. He did every other team on the field. He never left the field. That always amazed me. But by the time spring rolled around our senior year, after watching him for a few years be extremely impressive, he ran the 300 meter hurdles. And if you're not familiar with track and field, probably the most agonizing event on the field is the 300 hurdles. You've got to run in a full out sprint, 3/4 of the way around the track, and jump over things on the way, and do it as fast as you can. By our senior year, Gary Harris was undefeated the entire season. We watched him win that race in every single meet, which was great. And by the time we got to the state meet, we knew he was going to win the state meet. I don't think Gary remembers this, but I do. He caught a bug right before the state meet, and he ended up placing 2nd, which was kind of disappointing. It was impressive to be 2nd in the state meet, but we all knew he could win it. Well, he turned right around, so that qualified him for the meet of champions, and he turned right around and won the meet of champions. And in that process, he set the state record for what I think is the hardest track and field event to run. And this was 1983. As a result of his performance that year, he was high school track All-American. And we were pointing out in a conversation in the hallway, if you think about all the inductees in this Hall of Fame, which is really impressive, there's not a whole lot of them are national All-Americans. That is impressive. You just can't say enough about that level of performance. And that year, 1983, when he was named All-American, he had the 8th fastest time in the 300 hurdles in the nation. So that's the kind of athlete we're talking about. That impresses me to no end. And to this day, he still holds the record, the school record for that event. And it's impressive. And when he stands up and walks up here, I think you'll see that I think he could go do it right now. The rest of us we don't necessarily look that way, but Gary still does. Gary has become a great member of the community. He's a great friend. He's a great father, husband, and those of us we've been fortunate enough to be his friends for this long. We really appreciate Gary. And I appreciate Gary letting me do this. Good job, Gary.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Daryl. I appreciate that. It means a lot. Daryl and I have been friends, as he said, since 1979. And I'll tell you a quick story of how we became friends. As he said, he went to Elmwood, I went to Oakdale, and his girlfriend was a friend of mine at Oakdale. And so, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we each had friends that we weren't getting along with. So I got the first text message in 1979, which was a note, if anybody remembers passing notes in school, from Daryl through his girlfriend to me saying, hey, your friend's being a jerk to you, mine is, let's be friends. And I think it was yes, no, maybe, I don't remember, but so that's how we became friends. Anyway, I just had to share that story with you. But I would like to thank the board for allowing me to be a part of this group. I was looking online at the inductees and a lot of people that names I recognize and I don't necessarily know, and some that I do know personally, and I just feel really honored to be a part of this. You know, it's funny. I go around and I still get remembered for doing this, and it's been something that stuck with me and been a great accomplishment that I've done in my life. I have to thank two people in particular who were coaches, Barney Hayes and Benny Bridwell. I know many of you know Benny. He was there my sophomore year only, but Benny really put an impact on me, and I know Daryl was an 880 guy, which, thank goodness I didn't run distance, but Benny used to run the distance guys pretty hard, and we always felt sorry for them. But anyway, Barney coached me in 7th grade. After 7th grade, he got promoted to go to high school, and I was really disappointed, but knew in a few years I'd be up there with him, and he came and talked to me about it, and you know, assured me that, you know, the new coach would be great and everything would be fine. And that's obviously how the kind of coach Marty was. He was always concerned about his players. But, again, I'd like to thank the board for being part of this, and Matt, especially Matt. Matt's been very good communication with me over this. I would like to tell one quick story also. Our first day of track, we always have stories, so I mean, I could probably sit up here all night. First day of track my sophomore year, I don't know if you were walking with us to the track, and myself and Joel Turnus, which, you know, a little preface of Joel's about 5'10", and we're walking up to the track, and Benny comes up behind us and says, "You pups are ready to get after it." I'm like, "Oh, yes sir, yes sir." You know, I mean, we'd seen Coach Bridwell coach, so we knew, you know, yes sir. So he said, "Well, I have a question for you guys. Have either of you ever done hurdles?" And like, I never did a hurdle ever in junior high. And so, "No, sir." And Joel's looking at me like, "No, how do we answer this?" I said, "Well, we're going to make you guys hurdlers." "No, okay." So, you know, thinking, all right, so this probably won't work out, but I'll go ahead and try it. So nonetheless, that's how we got started, or I got started, and then through great coaching, I was able to do what I did. I would also like to thank, of course, my family, my wife, my kids. It's an honor for me to be here, them seeing this. It's just a great feeling to know that they're there. And of course, as Mark said, you always have to thank Mom, because Mom always made sure you were there, was there for you and doing the right things and making sure you got off to school with a warm breakfast and your clothes were washed if you needed them, all those things. And so I really appreciate that, Mom. And in closing, again, I'd like to thank everyone, and this is a great group of people, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Okay, our next inductee is a friend of mine, great football player. He's a little bit older than me, but I can remember some of my earliest memories as a kid was watching this guy play football. So Todd Horton will be presented by Paul Allard.
Thanks, Chris. Members of the community, members of the clergy, I see Ben Rowell back there, said our prayers before our games. Good to see you. Coaches, teachers, all the inductees. I'd like to thank the selection committee for their remarkable efforts to present these amazing entrants into the Hall of Fame. Todd, I want to publicly thank you for giving me this honor to introduce you tonight. This is a special moment, and I appreciate the opportunity to share it with you. You know, I was told that I'd be allowed just 2 minutes to tell you about Todd Horton. And I thought about how difficult a task that would be. But I thought for a moment, and then I said, well, how appropriate? Because I remember we only gave Todd Horton less than 2 minutes when we had to fake an injury after a touchdown so he could change into a straight-toed kicking shoe. You see, Todd was not only a tailback, defensive back, kick returner, but he was also our place kicker. In the last game of our senior year in 1984 against Russellville, into a pretty strong win, Todd kicked a 48-yard field goal and set a school record. I'm not sure if it still stands today, but it was a heck of a kick into the wind. Todd began playing football in first grade in Springdale. He then moved to Mountain Home and Hope, where he was successful in punt, pass, and kick competitions. Thankfully, his family moved back to Rogers as Todd entered 7th grade and started attending Oakdale Junior High School. That's when I first met him. My initial impression was that he had tremendous athleticism, and it showed in football, basketball, and track at Oakdale Junior High School. Then in September of 1981, Olivia Newton-John released the song Physical. You may not remember that, but it was about the exact same time. I thought it was very fitting because it was the same time and the same month that Todd got physical playing football as a Rogers Mountie. He went on to be a Rogers High School multi-year, multi-sport letterman in football, basketball, and track. He was selected as our team captain. He was all conference and on all state teams. Todd then went on to play football at Arkansas State University and lettered all 4 years. I remember watching one of his games on TV when they were in the playoffs, and Todd had a great kickoff return. I was very proud of you, and I know your parents were as well. If I had to choose one word to describe Todd Horton, it would be determined. He was determined to be the best at everything he did on and off the field. He motivated his teammates to do the best by just watching you be so determined. He was so determined not only on the field, but off the field. He was determined in things that might even include having the best groomed hair. But later, like many of us, he accepted his genetics. Todd was a tremendous team leader, and he always loved the Lord Jesus Christ. Today, he is a successful home builder with his father, with Horton Construction, and has a great ability to determine the needs of his customers. But I can say that his most remarkable attribute and legacy is that he is an amazing and dedicated father. As Todd's former teammate, it is my honor and blessing to introduce my friend, RHS class of 1984, Mr. Todd Horton.
Thank you, Paul. Actually, I don't know about all that. We kind of fed off each other. I had the fortunate to be able to play with Paul and Jerry Hughes and Jay Miles and Gary Harris and Joel Turnus and Charlie Fredericks, and so we had a lot of good athletes, and so I had a lot of help while I was there. I got to tell one story on Paul. Are you nervous? We were at Bentonville. It's Friday night. We're playing football. We're at Bentonville, and I think the score was close. I don't remember what it was, but we score, and so we've got to kick off. And so Mark, Paul's older brother, he got hurt. I think he hurt his knee. And Paul runs over to one of the coaches and he said, "Coach, Mark's hurt." And he said, "Well, get in there for him." So we go to kick off, and I kick the ball, and Paul runs as fast as he can down the field, and he hits this kid harder than I've ever seen anybody get hit before. And the ball flies 20 feet in the air, and we get the ball, and they drag that kid off the field. It was amazing. They dragged him off the field, and we ended up going in to score. And so then we kick off again. And so I kick the ball. They got a different runner in there. And this time, they send him up the far side of the field away from Paul. And so the kid gets up the sidelines quite a ways and decides to cut back. Big mistake. Because you know who's there waiting for him? It was Paul. Paul hit him, and he fumbled. This other kid fumbled the ball. We got the ball back again, and went in and scored again. And so we scored 21 points in less than a quarter. And so he was a kamikaze on kickoff teams. And then I was fortunate enough my senior year that he was my fullback in the I formation. And so I had kamikaze blocking for me my senior year at fullback. But I'd like to thank my mom and dad, Dean and Wilma, and Frankie and Sybil Risley, and my kids, McKenna and Max. Growing up in the 80s was kind of like that movie Sandlot. It was a great movie. It's a baseball movie, but if you've never seen it, you need to watch it. Me and Max used to watch it a lot. And growing up, we lived out of town, almost to Avoca. And late grade school, early junior high, we'd ride our bikes into town on the old road across the tracks and ride over to Lake Atlanta, swim all day, and ride home about 5 or 6 o'clock. And then later, as we got older, we'd haul hay and mow, and so if you let us get rested on a cool Friday night and put us in a set of pads, we were ready to rock and roll. We had some good teams, good coaches: Blackie Bond, Barney Hayes, Larry Melson, Nate and Matt's dad. He led our FCA meetings and took us to FCA camp in the summer times. Great guy. He didn't have to do that, but he did. Coach Joe Bryant, Bo Black, and Bear Smith were our coaches. And they were old school. They could get mean, and if they had to tell you twice, you're probably going to get chewed out. And but the mood was never somber with Paul and Jerry around. They always had something going, some kind of hijinks. And so they always kept us from getting too nervous or worked up. Our junior year was our favorite year because we were so good and so deep. We had Gary at wideout, and Charlie was fullback, and Joel Turnus was quarterback, and we had Jerry and Paul and me and Jay Miles. We just had a lot of good players, a lot of great athletes that could do a lot of things. So first game of the year we played Little Rock Parkview, and they had won the state championship the year before, and they're ranked #1 again. And they came to town, and they had James Rouse, Ricky Williams, and Keith Jackson, who all played major college and went on to play pro. And we tied them. We should have beat them. And we got down close at the end and tried a field goal. And Keith Jackson broke through and blocked the field goal. But at least we tied them. And so that was a huge boost. So then a couple games later, we were at Springdale. And I mean, I got a lot of offensive records and scored a lot of touchdowns and all that. But when I go back and read the newspaper articles and everything, what impresses me was our defense, our great defense. We were so good on defense. That's what I'm most proud of. We went to Springdale, and they were real good. They were ranked real high that year also. And the only time they scored was on the opening kickoff. They kicked the ball off, and it was between me and the other guy. Well, it was closer to the other guy, so I thought he'd pick it up. Well, he didn't pick it up. So I had to run over there, and about the time I got there, they hit me and wiped me out, and I fumbled, and they got the ball on the goal line and went in to score. They didn't score the rest of the night. And so we get down late in the game, and I'm standing on the sideline, and I swear Coach Bond said, fake field goal. Fake field goal. And so I go out on the field and I set my tee, and Joel, the quarterback, comes out to the huddle and he calls field goal. He calls regular field goal. And he breaks the huddle and he comes over and I'm like, we're supposed to fake it. And he's like, nope, we're kicking it. And so I backed up and kicked it and luckily made it, and we beat Springdale 10-7. And so we tied Parkview. They won state the year before, and then we beat Springdale at Springdale, and they went on to win the state championship that year. So it was really good. We were really good. Mike Wilson. Mike Wilson was our middle linebacker and tight end. He was the sweetest kid you'd ever meet, but on the football field, he'd tear your head off. It was unbelievable. He played with us too. And Jerry played corner, Jerry Hughes, and Jay Miles played outside linebacker. They were really good. Jerry was the best open field tackler that I've ever gone up against. I mean, from 8th grade to 12th grade, and I could fake some guys out, but probably from 8th grade to 12th grade, I might have faked Jerry out twice. He had corner, and he always had contain. They never got around him. And so he was really good. Charlie was fullback, and I was tailback, and I averaged like 7.4 yards a carry. It was something crazy. It was a lot of fun running behind Charlie. He a lot of times take two guys out and probably scare two more off, because he was coming through there. That was nice to have. And then after Springdale, we beat Bentonville here. That was one of my favorite games. They had a real good team that year too, with their juniors and seniors. They were kind of like we were, and they always talked trash about how they were going to beat us. And all that did was just fire us up. So they came, we beat them here. We beat Fayetteville both years, our junior year and my senior year. So after high school, then I went on to play college, and it was exciting, and was on luckily was on some good teams in college. And Charlie played at Arkansas State, where I did. He ended up becoming an All-American nose guard. He did really well there. And we got to play with guys that went pro, played against guys that went pro, which was neat, you know, and it's exciting. Speaking of exciting, my sophomore year, I was backup punt returner, and guess who got hurt? The punt returner. So I had to go in at Ole Miss. We were at Oxford at Ole Miss, and there were 60,000 people there. And I had to go in and catch my first punt, and of course they call punt blocks, so I didn't have any blockers, and this guy kicked a 60-yard punt, and I caught it, and I looked up, and there were like 6, 8 red jerseys running at me, and so I just put my head down and got about 6 yards, whatever I could. And it was exciting. I mean, we got to play one year for the 1AA championship. We were in Seattle and played Georgia Southern, and Tracy Ham was their quarterback. And he was the quickest cat I've ever seen. The NFL wanted him to play wide receiver, but he wanted to play quarterback, so he went to Canada. Kind of like Doug Flutie, and he ended up winning the Canadian championship a couple of years. But anyway, Brian's going to be getting me here. Okay, one quick Jerry story. For those of you who don't know about Captain Mountie, Jerry created his own mascot. Who does that? Who creates their own mascot? It was crazy. He played football, and then after football, he'd show up at basketball games and pep rallies, and he was dressed, he had blue tights on and a blue t-shirt on with white Captain Mountie letters on it, and goggles and a cape. And the funny part was he had these like Captain American underwear over his blue tights. You know, most of the superheroes, they have the cut thing going on, I guess. And so, but he would show up, and I think maybe Jim Robkin, the Razorback band director, he got some inspiration from him. You know how he'd run around and get everybody fired up? Well, that's what Jerry would do at pep rallies and basketball games. And so we're coming out of a pep rally, and we're coming out of the gym. You got to walk up the stairs, and we look up, and Jerry is on the building. He's on the roof. And he's running down the building, running down the roof, and Paul and some of them took off after him to see what he was going to do. And he got to the end of the building, he jumped off the building and landed in some grass and bounced and rolled and got up and kept on running because I'm sure he thought Mr. Kruger was right on his tail. And so he probably went to the field house to change clothes so he could sneak back into school and act like he didn't have anything to do with it. But we had a lot of fun, and I thank Paul for coming tonight and doing this. And wish Jerry was here. He reminded me of Paul's knockouts in the Bentonville game year before last. And so we had a lot of fun, and I appreciate this. Sorry it took so long. Thank you.
Todd kind of sounds like a coach. A few coaches I know. Okay, so we've got 3 more to go, and 2 of those are Mountie baseball players. These are the first 2 Mountie baseball players to be inducted into this hall, and I can think of no better 2 people to take that honor. We've had a great tradition at this high school of baseball, and these 2 are 2 of the best. But our first one is going to be Nate Melson, and he's going to be presented by his brother, Matt.
Brian kind of stole my thunder there. That's what I was going to say. Our program's almost 30 years old, and these are the first 2 guys that we've had in the Hall of Fame. like Brian said, I can't think of any two better guys to lead us off in the Hall of Fame. And before I get to Nate, I want to mention Patrick. I'm very proud for Patrick. He's probably the best high school hitter that I've ever seen, and just a great representative of our program. Real proud for him. I'm also a proud big brother today as I get to put Nate in. I had the honor of speaking on my late father's behalf as he was a part of the inaugural class here several years ago, and to be able to put Nate in here just kind of is icing on the cake for me. Nate graduated in 1997. 20 years later, he's still number 1 or 2 on all our Mountaineer baseball records in all the pitching categories, from earned run average to strikeouts to wins, both for season and career. And he did that. He only pitched for 2 years. Most of the guys on that record sheet were pitching for 3 and some even 4 years. He also played in the late 90s, which anybody familiar with amateur baseball at that point knows what an offensive game it was. There was not necessarily the bat restrictions like we have nowadays, but it makes it even that much more impressive. He's the best pitcher, one of the best players that we've ever had in our program. And there's a lot of people, former players and former coaches that I've talked to, even in the past month, that will make a case that he's the best player that's ever come through the 7A West Conference, best pitcher. And a lot of people here are familiar with Paul Nielsen, who was the former sports writer at a local paper, and he was quoted recently as saying, "In my nearly 32 years covering RHS athletics for the Rogers newspaper, Nate Melson was the most dominating and talented athlete that I ever covered." And that's really not hyperbole. You know, we play off campus, which is a little bit unfortunate, that more people couldn't have seen him play, but he really was that dominating. Coach Woodruff and I were talking earlier, we never lost a game, our program never lost a game that he started on the mound, and there's not a lot of people that can say that. He was a 2-time All-State baseball player, 1996 and 1997. He was also an All-State basketball player. He was recruited by numerous baseball powerhouses like LSU, Texas, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and so on, before signing to play with the University of Arkansas. Coach O'Brien saw us here, but he was later drafted in the 6th round of the 1997 amateur baseball draft by the Minnesota Twins. And to this day, he's still the only Rogers High School baseball player that's been drafted out of high school. He played in the Twins organization for several years, and later with the Kansas City Royals before later retiring. Nate and his wife Andy now live in Denver, where he's an educator and a college basketball official. He's the fiercest competitor I've ever seen, but he's also the best human being that I've ever been around. And I think these are two of the characteristics that make him so unique and so great. Please join me in welcoming Nate Melson.
Thank you, brother, for those words. This stage, I was here when I was 22 years old, and the late Don Soderquist and I gave him a speech. And Don Soderquist at the time ran Walmart, and then here I am, a 22-year-old, and I got up there and I just froze. All right, and so I'm glad that at least I made it further than I did that day. Basically, my sister back there, Tamara, was there that day, and of course she's too sweet to say, "Man, you kind of blew that one." All right. What a special moment this is to be joining a starstruck cast here, and also to be joining my dad and my father-in-law in this great honor. And one of these days soon, I know he can't because he's on staff right now, but my brother would be on this list if he worked on staff. So I think obviously the best high school baseball coach in the country, and even more importantly, the best dad to my nephews, JT and Lucas. So thanks, brother. I do want to share this quote because I think it hits home the point I'm wanting to make. This is from an anonymous Navy SEAL who said, "Under pressure, I don't rise to the occasion, but I sink to the level of my training." I want to start with Tom Woodruff. Tom was even my youth baseball coach, and we won a lot of baseball games. And when you win, as people went I don't like the New England Patriots, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Lucas is giving me a thumbs up. You know, it's good when those teams get knocked off. And even when you see a weakness, you want to kind of to sneak in a little criticism to them to make us feel like our team that's 30 miles away is better. So I want to say thanks to Tom for just sticking to his guns, and I think providing the perfect blend of the perfect blend of rigor and fun. And boy, we had a lot of fun. And this is where Ron is supposed to say amen. We had a lot of fun, didn't we, Ron? Amen. I think when this school gets a high school filled on this campus, Tom, I hope your name's on that. Be well deserved. Whenever the word hero gets thrown around, I think about my dad. For those of you that had time to be around my dad, he really recharged you by his humor, by his love, and his commitment to family and his faith, and the community. So, what a privilege I had to have a dad like him for 13 years. My mom and I share so many characteristics. She's a very determined lady, as I am. And so Mom and my stepdad, Dean, thank you guys for standing in the gaps for me during some tough years after losing Dad through junior high school. I want to, of course, you guys know what I think about my brother. My brother is the main reason why I'm standing up here. If I didn't have my brother, I don't think I'd have that edge that I needed. I'd say mentally and emotionally. So thank you, brother, for giving me that edge. My brother knows baseball. He knows it so well that he told me in January that the Colorado Rockies were going to be pretty good. And I think we at least have one more week to play baseball, hopefully. So he knows baseball. He knows how to motivate high school boys. I think it was just this year that you guys lost 6 or 8 games in a row. And it seemed like that I was looking on the Southwest Airlines website a week before the state championship game, wondering how I could make a flight for the state championship game. So just professionalism. I know he doesn't smile a lot on the baseball field, but it's because he's a professional guy, and he knows how to get the most out of those guys. Again, thanks for being the best, brother. I've got to, of course, mention all my high school coaches, Coach Williams, Coach Niven, Coach Harper on the basketball side, and then a year with Charlie Cooper. I remember being as nervous as I've ever been in my life, going into Coach Cooper's office and saying that it's time to just focus on basketball and baseball. So, and Coach Cooper just sat there, probably like what my dad would have done, and just said, "Hey, it's okay. You go knock it out and move those sports." So, thanks for being so gracious, Coach Cooper. Tom might remember this, but I had to get some pitching practice as a sophomore. And we were in the turf room in the Greer-Lingle Fieldhouse. And at the time, it was our assistant baseball coach, and then became my Legion coach, Bob Taylor. And Bob that day taught me how to throw a slider, which instantly became my strikeout pitch. I wish I wouldn't have lost it when I was a 19-year-old athlete. But to this day, any statistic that is attached to my name, I thank Bob for that great lesson. Of course, all my teammates, the Kyle Woodruffs, the Mark Giffords, Jared Armstrong in basketball, David Gorman. A quick story about David. I was a pretty thin sophomore. I was about probably 6'1". I played guard for the sophomore basketball team. And David said, "We're going to get in the weight room." And for about a year and a half, that's what we did. So, I mean, you look back on those things and you think, you know, if I didn't have a friend with that kind of drive, you know, what would have been my career as a high school player. And then probably, well, his humor, I laugh every time I think about this. His humor and a great motivator lived just in the next bedroom across the hall from me, and that's my stepbrother, Barry, who played for the Hayden Springdale Bulldogs. Not as hated as the Purple Dogs, but Barry, whatever I said about that slider didn't apply to Barry. Barry, I don't remember ever getting Barry out, so Barry, thanks for setting the bar high for me to try to keep up with you. And then who wouldn't want what high school boy wouldn't want a beautiful and supportive and hardworking girl to be joined at the hip with? So here we are 21 years later, and I'll be completely honest with you. If I don't get remembered as being an athlete, but as being a Hall of Fame husband to a Hall of Fame wife, that'll be a life that I think is well marked. Tom would always, he liked doing these cheers, and at the end of the game, or be it between innings or whatever, he'd say, "What does it take to win?" And we'd say, "Team effort." And then he'd say, "Who's going to win?" And we'd say, "Rogers." And I want to leave by saying, what an honor, of course this is, but it is obviously a team effort. I thank those of you in this room who molded and shaped me in a unique way. Of course, many that are outside of this room. Thank you, and I love you guys.
Okay, our next inductee was a fierce competitor on the basketball floor, and she was a real joy to watch. And there's a lot of people in this room who grew up and were here around that time. And this girl could play, and that's Holly Horton Treat, and she's going to be presented by Jamie Raines.
Tom Woodruff just told me to keep this short because he wanted more time, so I got to. Hello, and I just want to say thank you for being here and congratulations to all the inductees. I'm very honored to get a chance to introduce my lifelong friend of mine, Holly. I'd like to tell you some of her accomplishments as a Lady Mountie here at RHS, and I'm not going to tell you all of them. I'm just going to give you some highlights. She led her team in scoring, steals, assists as a senior. She was all conference, all state. She was the point guard for her team, who went on that year to win a conference championship. And we have not won, I want to say that we've won 4, that the Rogers Lady Mounties have won 4. So that's quite an accomplishment. After high school, she earned a scholarship to play basketball at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah. And then upon graduating, she began teaching and coaching. And this is where Holly truly became an all-star. Whether Holly's teaching students to fish, whether she's coaching players on how to play tough defense, or leading an FCA group, she has made a difference in so many lives of students and players. She is a difference maker in life, just like she was on the court. It is with great pride I introduce you to my friend, my former teammate, my colleague, and some nights, my opponent, and most importantly, every spring, my fishing buddy, Holly Horton Treat.
Thank you, Jamie. That was very kind words that you said, and thank you for your friendship. And I want you to know, Jamie and I, we fish a lot together, and I can usually catch the most, but she always catches the whopper. So, but I want to thank the Hall of Fame Induction Committee. This is an incredible honor and privilege, and something I will always look back on with great joy. I had forgotten how good it was to be wearing Mountie blue again. And, but I would like to also congratulate the other inductees who are here today. It is an honor to be a part of this outstanding group, and I feel very privileged. You know, in 1987, my family moved here moved to Rogers from a small town in Marshall, Arkansas. I was quiet, shy, and did not really understand why this school did not close school for the first day of deer season. So a lot of anxiety came with our move to the big town, but soon it became apparent how this town embraced, loved, and supported me through such an impressionable time. People like Ben and June Rowell at First Baptist Church Rogers, who taught me so much about the love of Jesus, Whitey Smith, who never missed a game keeping our book and supporting our team fundraisers, Bill and Judy Niven, who were great examples of role models through church and FCA, and of course Mark Kruger. He doesn't know it, but he was my favorite administrator. I just didn't like to go in his office and explain why I was absent. While it was not easy to leave the place we called home, the community of Rogers welcomed my family. Sorry about that, but welcomed my family and I with open arms. And I would like to thank my parents, Jerry and Louise Horton. I would not be where I am today without their unconditional love, support, and encouragement. Both made tremendous sacrifices for my brother and me, and I love you more than words can say. To my brother Brock, even though we never talked to each other much in the hallway, thank you for never taking it easy on me. I believe I learned how to be the competitor I am today, growing up with you. And I can still remember the times where we competed over who got the larger half of the Tony's pizza. So thank you for believing in me and supporting me. To David Treat, thank you for supporting me and loving me. We met one summer when I was in college, and he wore out a new truck driving back and forth to see me play basketball every weekend. I will forever cherish the memories of being a part of the Rogers High School basketball program and the significant influence it had on my life, helping shape me into the person I am today. To my teammates, I can only hope that I played hard, I played fair, I was competitive, caring, motivated, positive, and a good teammate. And I would like to thank my high school basketball coach, Brenda Alexander, who not only taught me the fundamentals of the game, but also the meaning of hard work and dedication. I will never forget how she supported and cared for her players during high school and after. And lastly, I would like to thank my dear friend and college basketball coach, Gay Stark, and thank you for not giving up on me and helping shape me into the person that I am today. As you can see, God has richly blessed me by placing many unselfish people in my life. So I'd like to leave you with this, but we should strive to reach the end of our lives without a lot of the buts. But she was not a good teammate. I hope my story will always be about the ands. And she was unselfish, and she worked hard, and she was coachable, and lastly, and she loved Jesus. You know, Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, when you were born, you were crying, and everyone else was smiling. Live your life so that at the end, you are the one who's smiling, and everyone else is crying. And one of my favorite Bible verses to end comes from Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Thank you.
Okay, now we've reached our last inductee. I have known this young man for most of his life. My favorite story about him is when I was playing ball in high school, he was always running around asking his Uncle Tom if he could have a Snickles. And it wasn't a Snickers, it was a Snickles. Uncle Tom, I want a Snickles. Tom would go buy him a Snickles every time. So this is our other baseball inductee, Patrick Woodruff, and he'll be presented by his Uncle Tom, Uncle Tom Woodruff.
Oh man, I love being the last. It reminds me when we would practice, we always took turns practicing in the old artificial turf room, and I always took the last practice because there was never an end. We could practice as long as we wanted. So this is now, Mr. Kruger, what, 5 minutes? Okay, here we go. He said as long as I'm through by 6:20, I could talk. Patrick Woodruff played baseball from 1997 to 1999. It was a starter all 3 years. He played the infield and was an exceptional hitter. We kept 6 records at the high school level in hitting, and he, to this day, leads in 4 of the 6. Rhonda said, don't put on those silly glasses, but I'm going to have to, Rhonda. He leads in the most home runs, highest batting average, most runs scored, and most RBIs in a season. In addition to his success in the regular season, his postseason accolades were All-Conference in '98, All-State in '99, Co-MVP in the '99 Arkansas State All-Star Tournament, and he continued his baseball to college, played for West Ark Community College, and then for the University of Arkansas. One of the, we always took a trip during the springtime, and this particular trip, we went to Sperry, Oklahoma for 5 days. And Coach Cooper said, well, why did you schedule that? And I said, well, it'll have some rain out, so we won't play but maybe 1 or 2 days over there. Well, it didn't rain out any day, and we went every day over there. I was the bus driver, and on the first, I didn't know really where I was going. And so at that time, we got out of school, and the players had to change clothes in the parking lot. And so Patrick was always a little late. I said, Patrick, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And he lost some teeth. He lost about 3 or 4 teeth and had major surgery, did he, Dr. Riggs? I think he was involved in helping reconstruct some of that. But he would take his teeth out, and he ended up putting them on the hood of a car, and he was in such a rush, he left them there and got on the bus, and we were heading to Sperry, Oklahoma, and I got a call from the secretary at the high school and said, Coach Woodruff, I think we have Patrick's teeth. I said, what? And they found his teeth on the parking lot, and it fell off of a car. And I said, well, he's just going to have to play without the teeth. Patrick was a team player, dominating hitting machine. When he played for the high school team, he excelled not only on the ball field, but also in the classroom. You know, and I think what's most important about a Hall of Famer is not what they've done during their athletic years, but what they've done after that. And I think that each one of these inductees tonight has his or her own story about what they've done to help make their community better. Patrick lost a son after 87 days. It was spinal muscular atrophy. He and his wife, Meredith, formed a foundation to help other couples overcome this disease. And they've raised thousands of dollars since then. I'm honored to introduce Patrick Woodruff as one of the newest inductees into the Rogers Athletic Hall of Fame.
All right, let me try to stay on script here because I've been sitting over there for a while and I got to go to the bathroom. Okay, one honor. Thanks for the Hall of Fame committee for voting me in. Thanks for Tom for the recommendation. Thanks for my brother Kyle for the writing a letter, and also for Paul Melson for writing a letter of recommendation. Congrats to all of y'all. Very, very proud of each and every one of you. I'd like to thank my mom. She spent countless hours on that spread out there. I think everyone had one table. I think she stole 3 tables from me, so I appreciate that. No kidding. That was a heck of a spread, Mom, so thank you so much. It's impressive. Okay, so I have a lot of thank yous. Thanks to all my coaches, starting off with my dad. He coached our T-ball team. Expos, I think we never lost a game. Went into Little League with my Uncle Tom, and that was with the Royals. Everyone is probably familiar with the Royals, and we won city championships every year from 9 to 12 years old. For Brian, he remembers quite well, I'm sure. And Gary, I saw Coach Jackson out there. But I'd like to thank Tom and Coach Tate for molding me at a young age and teach me how to compete. On to Babe Ruth. Rusty Honey was my 13-year-old coach. I probably got worse that year, but we had a good time. I don't think he's here, but we had a good time. My dad, coming back and coaching me 14, 15, to Babe Ruth, Tom through high school, Coach Harpino in JUCO, and Coach O'Brien at Division I level. I'd like to thank all the teachers in the Rogers school system, from elementary up to high school. First of all, putting up with me. Like Tom said, I didn't have teeth, but I did have a retainer, and I would take it out when I ate my lunch. So I'd put it on my tray, I'd go eat, because it's easier to eat up the retainer. And then I would throw my tray in the trash can and go back to the classroom. And Miss Ebert would say, "Where's your teeth?" I said, "Oh my God, I threw it in the trash." So I'd go, and it happened numerous times. Every time I'd walk in there, the lunch ladies, they'd give me the long yellow gloves, and I'd go sifting through the trash. And sometimes I did it on purpose, because I'd go through all the trash. Napkin, milk, corn. God, it was disgusting. And I'd always find about $20-something, and I'd always find my teeth. So I'd start throwing my teeth away on purpose so I can get some extra change. Anyways, thanks to the educators in my lifetime. I really respect every one of them. They taught me not only stuff in the classroom, but stuff about life, and prepared me to be the student athlete that player, and he got me into the weight room, and I got stronger, and eventually in high school was where I broke out. But to all the young kids, if you're batting last, not playing a lot, just stay with it. Stick to your guns and stay motivated. Let's see. A lot of childhood memories. When I was 12, I ripped my teeth out in the basketball net. See Dr. Riggs right here? He was my dentist, and they were my neighbor, thank God. I went up and done a basketball with my brother, ripped both my teeth out. Thank God he saw something ripped across the driveway and picked them up, put them in milk, went and saw Dr. Riggs, put them back in that same night, and one of them didn't take, so we had to pull one of them. But that one tooth gone. Then fast forward to Tom in high school. We were working on rundowns in practice. I bent down to tag my own teammate in a rundown, so bent down, tagged him. He thought through it. He's going to turn around and go this way, elbowed me right here, shattered my bone and knocked my other front tooth that we saved, and my side tooth back up in the roof of my mouth. So there's my story, and then I couldn't have teeth because I was still playing baseball. So the next part was the implants, and they want to give me implants because that is a titanium rod that's connected to your bone up here. So I had no teeth. Now 3 teeth gone. And funny story on that was we were playing in Harrison, and I think I hit 3 home runs in one game. And we're shaking the hands, and this coach, he's good game, good game. He says, "Short, you hit more home runs than you have teeth." Oh, God. I'd like to thank my brother. Growing up, he let me play with his buddies, Nate and the Gifffords and everyone. And I think someone else said it here earlier tonight, that playing with or having an older sibling, you learn to compete because they're so much better. So thanks for including me, pal. Let's see here. The intimidation factor that Tom taught me back in the 9 and 12-year-old days, driving in on limousines, fire trucks for the state championship. We won the game before we even stepped on the field. My 12-year-old, we rode in on the Hells Angels. I'm not kidding. We had 12, 15 Hells Angel motorcycle crew come pick us up. And we rode in on the back of the Harley Davidsons to East Field. And they said you could hear the roar from Dixieland to Northwest Park. Did you, Brad? You remember? I think he was playing in the game before it, but anyways. That intimidation factor, it works. Someone else talked about that too. Special thanks to Mama Rhonda. She cooked my pregame meal before every game in high school. It was famous BLT and mac and cheese. So good luck. So thank you. Appreciate you always taking care of me. Baseball is a team sport, and I had the best teammates ever. I had a ton of athletes that surrounded me. I had Bond, he's here. We had Honey, Bond, Fox, Dybel, Scott Wood, Adam Gammon, ton of talent. So in baseball, if you're a real good hitter, the pitcher will pitch around you because they know you don't have another guy on the team. They couldn't do that to the Mountie team. We had hitters up through 1 through 9 lineup. So those records are nice, but they deserve a lot of credit for that because the pitcher couldn't pitch around me to get to an easier out. Every one of them was very hard out. Nate, you did something that I was gonna do too, but I'm still gonna do it. I got one more funny story. This is really funny. Okay, so we were playing LSU coach, and Skip Bergman, who's a legendary baseball coach, and then went on to be the AD of LSU. I was playing first, and Skip came out of the dugout. So you know who he was, just because he's a legend. I said, hey, Coach, how you doing? Excuse my language, but I'm quoting him. I said, hey, Coach, how you doing? He said, hey, first day, Coach needs to give you a dental plan, not a scholarship. No, I got a lot of jokes. I can't say them all because some of them aren't rated. Oh, God. All right, well, Nate talked about Coach Woodruff doing a bunch of rah-rah rants and do's and don'ts and all that stuff. And this is one we said before every game. And here it is. It's called success. And here it goes. If you think you're beaten, you aren't. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win but think you can, it's almost since you won't. If you think you'll lose, you've lost. For out in the world we find success begins in the fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger, faster man, but sooner or later, the one who wins is the one who thinks he can. And then like Nate said, what do we say? What's it take to win? Team effort. Who's going to win? Mounties. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
I didn't know we were going to end in a comedy show, but that was good. I guess I should have known that. But okay, so if you've been with us, we've been raising money for about a year. The Hall of Fame members are all out here in the trophy case in the hallway, and we have run out of physical room in that trophy case. If you go out there, all the pictures are cantered and stuff. And so what we've been doing is raising money to get an electronic kiosk. We have a place for it in the hall, reserved, but we're just still raising money, just a hair bit short. It'll look something like this. It'll allow us to put videos, newspaper, TV, whatever, on there. It'll all be touchscreen kind of deal, but I'm extremely proud of my board. We've raised a little over $14,000 for this endeavor. We still need a little more. We're almost there. We still need a couple of $1,000, and then we'll be able to put that in place. And so we're really hoping by next year that thing will be in the hall. So if you have an interest in donating, we do have a corporate sponsorship available. Just get a hold of me. My information is up there. You can call Charlie Abernathy here at the high school if you can't remember that. So he'll be able to get you in touch with what we need to do. I believe the only other thing, there's a couple things I want to say. Sean Lee, if he's still around, if not, he'll have it on the table. If you are a current member of the Hall of Fame or a spouse of a Hall of Fame member, please see Sean. We're trying to keep our emails up to date. That goes for all you guys too. I don't know if we have current emails on you or not, but trying to get away from the paper mailings and those kinds of things the best we can. So please find him and give him your email address so we have that on file. Want to invite everybody. We have a catered meal at the other end of the Commons. So if you'll go out the main doors and go to the other end, we have barbecue for everybody in here. So please get something to eat for those of y'all who are staying for the football game. You should have just enough time to do that. If you would, please go down there and get that started though. These inductees will be announced at halftime. So we are on a schedule to get them over to the field in time to make that happen. So please everybody stay and eat. Let's give this class one more hand. Okay, thank you for being here, and you're dismissed.